Welcome everyone for today's webinar on where we will report about the SNS JU program KPIs progress for 2025. And this webinar is being organized by the SNS Co-op Support Action. My name is Uwe Herzog. I'm the coordinator of the project and I will be the moderator throughout the webinar. Okay, a few words to start with. As I just mentioned, the information that we will present in the webinar has been prepared by the SNS Co-op Support Action. And the target, the context of the activity is that we want to support a gap analysis, performing a gap analysis, and to get a very good and comprehensive overview of the progress and impact of the SNS in the past year. In the webinar today, we cover the progress of the SNS projects from call 1, 2, and 3. So what we will present today is what has been the progress of these projects in various aspects, like dissemination, trials, demos, standards contribution, IPR, and other criteria. You can see in the figure on the right-hand side, the red frame depicts the period upon which we report. So we focus on anything in 2025, but it's not just call 3 as it might mislead a bit by putting it here. These are the start years of the projects of these calls. So today we will cover call 1 projects, most of which were in their final year in 2025, not all, but many. Then the projects from call 2 who started in 2024, so they were in their typically middle year, and then also the newly started projects from call 3 that started just in 2025. So the progress on these various aspects from the projects from these 3 calls will be presented today. Then, as I guess some might be curious about call 4, 5 projects. These are the projects that will start this year. And usually in this webinar, in past years, we also gave some information about the plans and from the newly started projects. However, there's some delay in the start of these projects this year. So therefore, we cannot present anything on them in the webinar today. However, as they are about to be started right now and will be started further on in the course of the next months, we expect that we will organize another dedicated webinar to present aspects on the technical vision market aspects from these projects, probably in autumn of this year. So for the webinar today, we have collected information from 79 SNS projects with an online questionnaire, and we have evaluated the outcome, which was a tremendous amount of effort that was needed for that. And in the webinar, as said, we will present an extract of the key insights of our analysis. Brief look at the agenda for today. So after the introduction, we do have Christina Apostolaki from the SNS office, who will give us a few words from the SNS JU. And then we have the presentation of the call 1 to 3 project achievement KPI status, for which we have 3 presenters. Ada Gurella from Ericsson, who is the task leader of that activity in SNS Co-op. And he will be supported by Pierre-Yves Danet and Carles Anton Haro, who also participated in this activity. And then at the end, there's a 10-minute slot reserved for any potential questions and some forward-looking remarks. For any question that might come up in the course of the webinar, I suggest that you put them in the chat so I can take them already on a slide, and the other speakers can see them in advance, which always good if they need a bit more thinking in particular. But otherwise, the question can, of course, also be asked in the Q&A slot at the end. That's no problem. So that's the plan for today. Yeah, please keep your mics muted all the times. And yeah, questions, please put them in the chat. Okay, and with that, I hand over to Christina for a few words from the SNS office.
Thank you, Uwe. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on behalf of the Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking. I'm Christina Apostolaki, Project Officer at SNS JU. And before diving into today's session, allow me to make a brief personal remark. I joined SNS JU last February after many years in the industry and several years working within the European institutions. It's therefore a great privilege for me to become part of this dynamic European community, working at the forefront of advanced connectivity technologies and 6G innovation. I'm truly excited to contribute to this ecosystem and to support the excellent work being carried out across the SNS program. And I firmly believe that initiatives such as SNS JU can play a decisive role in strengthening Europe's technological leadership and competitiveness in this strategic field. Turning now to today's topic, the information collected and analyzed through this questionnaire provides valuable input to the SNS JU program KPIs for 2025. And I would like to warmly thank all participants joining us today from SNS projects and from the broader European research and innovation community working on connectivity technologies. Today's webinar is particularly timely because it addresses a subject that is becoming increasingly central to the future of European research and innovation programs, the ability to demonstrate concrete, tangible impact. The SNS joint undertaking is not only supporting excellent research, it's contributing to the development of Europe's strategic 6G ecosystem, reinforcing technological sovereignty, strengthening industrial leadership, and supporting both digital and green transitions across Europe. To communicate this value convincingly to policymakers, member states, industry stakeholders, and citizens, we need robust evidence, measurable outcomes, and consistent program-wide monitoring. And this is precisely why the SNS JU KPI monitoring framework plays such a vital role. In today's highly competitive international environment around AI and 6G development, Europe must not only be able to innovate, but also to demonstrate the impact of its investments through credible data-based evidence and measurable, tangible results. One of the major advances within SNS JU has been the transition from fragmented project-level reporting towards a broader and more strategic program-level understanding of impact. Our monitoring activities are therefore far more than an administrative exercise. They are an essential instrument for demonstrating how coordinated European investments translate into concrete achievements and real-world impact. They allow us to demonstrate how the program contributes to European competitiveness, innovation capacity, and industrial uptake. They also help highlight Europe's role and influence in global standardization activities, and it's therefore essential that all projects continue to approach KPI reporting as a strategic contribution to the visibility and success of the overall SNS program. This is not just a reporting task. The results we're already observing are highly encouraging. Across the SNS portfolio, projects have delivered an impressive number of scientific publications, standardization contributions, open source contributions, trials and demonstrations across multiple vertical sectors. We are also witnessing strong collaboration throughout the European ecosystem, including synergies with other European partnerships and initiatives, such as CHIPS JU and Photonics. This level of cooperation is helping to build a stronger and more integrated European innovation landscape. In other words, we can achieve more when we are cooperating well together. At program level, SNS JU projects have already generated more than 2,000 standardization contributions since the launch of the program. In parallel, we are addressing more than 450 use cases and supporting a broad range of trials and pilots in areas such as Industry 4.0 and manufacturing, media and extended reality, automotive, transport, logistics, smart energy, smart cities and smart health, all the way to tourism, culture, education, but also security, public protection and disaster relief, and critical infrastructures. These are some concrete examples of European innovation delivering value well beyond the laboratory environment. Achieving this level of visibility and impact depends on the active engagement of all projects. The quality, consistency, and competitiveness of the information provided through the questionnaire process directly influence our collective ability to communicate the program's achievements externally. Reliable KPI data plays an essential role in supporting policy discussions and shaping future work programs, including the next framework program. At the same time, it helps demonstrate European leadership globally in key connectivity technologies. I would therefore like to sincerely thank the SNS Co-op team for coordinating this activity and organizing today's webinar. I also want to thank all project representatives for their continued collaboration, commitment, and contribution to the success of the program. As someone who has recently joined SNS JU, I look forward to working together with all of you in supporting Europe's leadership in next-generation connectivity technologies. Thank you all for participating in today's session. I wish you a productive and insightful webinar. Thank you. Back to you, Uwe.
Thank you very much, Christina, for your kind words and also for putting our efforts into the context and also explaining on the usefulness of the work that we are doing, which is always good to see that it's being exploited and used. So it's a good purpose for what we are doing.
Certainly. It's a very big source of our annual activity report, actually, which will be revealed a bit later on the timeline. So yes, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So then I suggest let's get started with the presentation. And for that, I hand over to Ada, who will organize the presentation of the outcomes and results.
Thank you, Uwe. Let me start sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Not yet in presentation mode, but now, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Uwe, for the introduction, and thank you, Christina, for the very insightful explanation. As you said, and also as you will see, we have collected so many responses to our questionnaire. So it was a bit hard task for us to achieve. But together with our colleagues, we have completed this presentation for your evaluation. This is the fourth time of this questionnaire, and you will see 2025 data in this presentation. And as Uwe said, they are from projects from call 1, call 2, and call 3. And we were a team while evaluating this data that we have collected from the projects. It was me, Pierre Yves Danet from 6GIA, Charles Anton from CTTC, and James Clark from CETU, and Costa Trijas from 6GIA. So we did it as a teamwork. So as a first slide, I would like to show you the overall status, what we have achieved in this year 2025. Overall, as you know, 79 projects responded to this questionnaire, actually all of them. If you look at from the very left corner, actually there was 1,226 events that our projects have contributed, and 328 of them were organized by the projects themselves, and nearly 900 of them supported or contributed by. So as you can see in the events, the SNS projects were very active. And when we look at the publications, nearly 1,415 publications were published, and more than 80% of them were open access. And also we can see that here there were around 300 cross-project publications, which means the projects collaborated with each other, which is also good for synergy. And from the IPR perspective, 19 IPR submitted during 2025, 14 of them already granted, and these 21 projects filed these 119 IPRs. When it comes to tests and trials, overall 550 of them have been occurred, and 326 of them were POCs or lab tests, and 224 of them were trials or pilots. And also another important contribution was regarding to standards. As you can see, 920 standard contributions have been done. And finally, we have benefited, I mean, the SNS JU projects benefited from the open source solutions. We have used 316 open source solutions, and the SNS projects contributed to 129 open source contributions. And 35 projects contributed to these open source communities. This was the highlights. We try to show these highlights every year. So this was the summer of 2025. Now, in the upcoming slides, you will see about more details about each of these information, so that you can see a bit more breakdown of the achievements. So we will continue with the questions with their numbers. Here on the first upper row, you can see the question, and on the right side you can see the key insight from this questionnaire, and also there are some graphs that are supporting our achievements in the middle of the presentation. So let's start with the first one. How many events has your project organized or contributed to in 2025? As you can see, and I also showed in the first slide, around more than 1,000 events, 1,226 events have been contributed. 328 of them were organized, and nearly 900 of them were contributed to. Average number of events per project were around 16. So we divide the total number to the number of contributors. And highest number of events were from one project was 47, and lowest number of events per project was 2. And top 5 preferred event venues were EU SNS 6G Summit, Mobile World Congress, ICC, Globecom, and NFB SDN. And I am pretty sure these all sound you very familiar, since these are the top conferences in Europe and around the world. And if you look at the graph here, most of the contributions were on conferences, and then it's followed by workshops, and then in the third list is the sessions. So this is the distribution of the events. Then I move to the second question. How many publications has your project authored? And again, as you can see, we have received quite a lot of number of publication information. It was around 1,415. And average number of publications per project was 18. And the highest number of publication from one project was 66. And lowest number of publication per project was 2. So nearly all of the projects contributed. And the publications, as I highlighted in the very first slide, were 80% of them available in open access. And nearly 300 of those publications are the result of the cross-project collaboration, which is good. And the preferred publishers are common usual suspects, IEEE, Elsevier, and Springer. And preferred conferences are also well-known: Globecom, IEEE, ICC, EU SNS 6G Summit. If you look at the type of the SNS JU project publications graph on the middle, it is again the publication in conference, proceeding, and workshop takes the highest score, and is followed by article in journal and other type of publications. They share the top 3. Then I continue with the third question. It is about how many contributions to standards organizations have been submitted by project partners in 2025, stemming directly from project-related activities. Again, the number was quite impressive here. 920 standards contribution have been achieved. Average number of contribution per project was 15. Highest number of contribution was from one project was 101, and the lowest number of contribution per project was 1. So you see some projects are more active compared to others. And preferred work groups in 3GPP was SA6, SA1, and SA2. And if you look at the ETSI work groups, it was TC Data, ICG ISEC, ICG ZSM were the most preferred ones. You can see it's a bit small, but here you can see the distribution for the 3GPP contribution and ETSI contribution. And if you look at the top 3 contributions to standards organization bodies, it's most 3GPP. It takes the first place, followed by ETSI and IETF. So then question 4. Pierre, are you with us?
Yes. Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, so looking to this this first question regarding patents and IPR. So the question was how many patent and related activities have been submitted by each project, and you have the result here on this slide. So the main point that we need to take away is that there are a lot of IPR submission, 119, and already 14 of them were so granted. Well, this number has been captured end of 2025, so I guess that today, so there are more than 14 of them already granted, but it's a quite interesting number. Then, with regard to the 79 project which has been questioned, so 21 of them, meaning so 1/4, has made some has submitted its IPR. So for one project, the highest of submission was 41. As for the lowest, is it's only 1. So it's quite interesting to see also this topic. So then, so obviously, call one project have produced the most IPR because so they are more or less ended end of 2025, and most of them have produced, you know, so result and able to produce so IPR as well. Stream B project, which are the most innovative driven project, are the most productive as well. And interesting to see that so the main topic that have been addressed but patent and so on was network management and optimization, so machine learning and AI for network and AI network for AI, obviously, security and privacy, and radio and wireless technologies. It's not so different than so the previous questionnaire in 2024. Those are mainly the same topics which has been addressed as well, which is good because it's a good continuity, you know, of targeted technologies. And if you look to the graph, so it just you know a comprehensive representation of what I just told you about. So the generation of API for, per SNS call. So call 1, the most productive one, and per stream B, obviously the same. So next slide, maybe, Arda.
Sure.
Okay, then so we are moving to the experimentation part. So the first question on Q5 was how many proof of concept or lab test as your project executed in 2025. So there are a number of this experimentation done during 2025. So 326, which is really a high number. So they are produced by 40 projects. So half of the project of the 79 projects have conducted POC and lab tests in 2025. One project has produced 67 POC, which is very high number. So the average is 8, and the lowest is one POC last test by project. What is also interesting is that so this POC and lab test has been conducted in so all over Europe in 24 countries, sorry. So which is a good average of and a good coverage of the European countries. 193 of them of use cases have been declared replicable, which is very an interesting topic that we have also collected. How easy is a use case able to be replicated by anyone in other location? So it's so somewhere, you know, a very good number, 62% of them. Call one project have conducted the most number, the highest number, so 2024, which is obvious as well because so they are finishing, so they are in the last phase of their work. And stream B and stream B for innovation and stream D for experimentation of use cases in verticals were the most productive, which is also obvious. So looking to the figure on the left, so you have the different the number of POC of lab tests so developed by SNS per call. So call 1 is the most productive, obviously. Call 2 is the second one, and call 3, which are the recent project, are the third one. And the number of POCs per stream is, so as I told you before, stream D for vertical use cases and stream B for innovation use cases. Yes. And the last one is on the number of POC per country. So Spain was the most productive, so 65, which is a very good number. Greece and Italy were the second and third one. But you know, a number of countries have experimented POC as well and lab test. So next slide. Okay, and the next one was for trials and pilots. So TRLs 5, 6, and 7. Same question to the project, and you can see there that 224 trial and pilots has been conducted by 16 projects. So one project I produced 111 trial and pilot, which is a very high number as well, as the average is 14, and so the lowest one is 1. So they have been conducted in 21 countries, and so good to see as well that 192 of these use cases, so meaning 85% have been declared replicable. So meaning that they are part of our replicability catalog, where anyone could pick one of the other use case and replicate it in another location. One project conducted is the most productive as well, 188, and stream D, so experimentation project conducted most, so the trial and pilot, so 200 of them. So which is obvious because so it was obviously the objective of the stream D project to develop so use case and pilot and trial them, experimenting them. And on the left side, so you have similarly. So, the graph, you know, the figure representing what I just said to you, meaning that call 1 project was the most productive as well as for the previous question. And then stream D project were the most productive as well. And regarding the number of trial and pilot per country is not the same ranking as for POC and lab test, but so similarly. So you see that in Germany was the highest number, so 77. Second one is Spain, 43, and Greece, 21. And all the others are experimented a number also of trial and lab tests. So I think it's more or less terminating. So this three questions.
Thank you, Pierre. And I continue with the open source solutions that your projects made use of in 2025. So when we look at the key insight that we can see 316 open source solution used during this year, 2025. And 100, if you look at on the left graph, these are the top 20 open source tool solutions used in the SNS JU. Kubernetes, Open5GS, and Prometheus are the top 3. And these 20 of total open sources are nearly equivalent to 129 open source solutions that they have used. Those are the top 20. And there are 187 additional specialized open source solutions also used by the projects. Overall, 40 SNS JU projects use those open source solutions, and the highest number of OSS per one project was 65. It is again quite a very high number for one project, and the lowest number of OSS open source solution per project was 1. If you look at the top application areas of these open source solutions, for cloud orchestration and virtualization, it was Kubernetes, Docker, and OpenStack. For AI, machine learning, it was PyTorch, TensorFlow, and Flower. And for monitoring and observability, it was Prometheus, Grafana, InfluxDB. And finally, for 5G and 6G networking stack, it was Open5GS, Free5GS, SRS-Run, and OIA. So those were the top application areas of the open source solutions by the projects. Then, of course, after using those open source solutions, how many open source did the projects contribute? How many open source contributions has projects generated, submitted, and how many of them were accepted in 2025? So we focus on this question 8. Totally 197 contributions to open source communities with 2025. So projects made a contribution to around 200 contributions. In total, 35 SNS projects contributed to open source, and highest number of contribution per project was 35. So one project contributed to 35 different open source, and lowest number of contribution was 1 per project. Top open source repositories preferred were GitHub and Zenodo, and significant SNS JU contributions to ETSI SDG, Software Development Group, has been done. And when we detailed it, ETSI Teraflow SDN by far the most popular, with a very high acceptance rates. And if you look at the graph in the middle, as you can see, GitHub was the first one, followed by ETSI. These, of course, graph is listed according to the contribution numbers, the dark blue, and then you can see in some open source communities there are approval methodologies, and these are the light blue ones, shows the number of accepted open source submitted to those open source organizations. And the third one is Zenodo in the list. Then we move to question number 9. Has your project experimented with energy efficiency solutions in 2025? We all know that the energy efficient solutions becoming more and more important. And we have observed that according to the responses we collected, 22 SNS JU projects experimented with energy efficiency solutions. And Call 1 and Call 2 projects were more heavily engaged with energy efficient solutions than Call 3 projects. It is also depicted in this graph. You can see Call 1 projects submitted 9, responses. Call 2 submitted 10 and call 3 submitted 3 energy efficient solutions response to our questionnaire. And stream B projects engage the most with energy efficiency experimentation. And on the right graph here, you can see that the distribution as stream B is getting the highest amount of energy efficient solutions, followed by the stream A projects. And when we go a bit more detail in the investigated energy efficiency solutions, they mostly include energy awareness resource allocation and orchestration in Cloud Edge Run continuum, energy efficient communication and radio network design, especially focus on sleep nodes, DTX, muting, PA blanking, and finally, energy efficient AI, computing device level optimization, FPGAs versus CPU, GPU, and batteryless, etc. So these were the most focused energy efficient solution that we have observed from the questionnaire results. And then 10th question, Charles, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Please.
All right, so question number 10. In question number 10, as you can see, projects were asked about their engagement in high-risk research, specifically about the percentage allocated to high-risk research in their budget share. High-risk meaning projects activities at TRL1 and TRL2. TRL2 is basic principles. TRL1 is basic principles observed, whereas TRL2 stands for technology concept formulated. So this means that neither in 1 or 2 there is experimental or proof of concept activities or lab studies, just formulation of ideas and possibly simulation of those ideas. All right, all this said, you can see the charts, the diagrams in the slide. The pie charts in the upper part of the slide stand for percentages of projects engaging in high-risk research activities, whereas the bar charts in the bottom is about percentages of budget share. Let me focus first on the pie charts. As you can see under the key insights, it's 45% of SNS JU projects do engage in high-risk research activities, which is good news. This is an industry-oriented project, but I mean, networks are continuously evolving, so we need to keep an eye on the future. And this reveals that it is indeed the case for 45% of the SNS JU projects across call 1, call 2, and call 3. But as you can see in the pie chart, the percentage substantially fluctuates. In call 2, the percentage of project was roughly 2/3, whereas in call 1 and call 3, the percentage of projects engaging in TRL1 and TRL2 activities was roughly 1/3. Good. If we go to the plots in the bottom, here you have some insights about budget percentages and also more details about TRL1 and TRL2. First conclusion is that, as you can see in the x-axis, is the percentage, the budget share for high-risk research activities. If we have a look first at the 0%, that is projects not performing any TRL1 or TRL2 activities, it fluctuates. In the case of TRL1, it's roughly 55 projects out of 79, whereas for TRL2, it's roughly 40 projects out of 79. So that's 50% for TRL2 and slightly higher for TRL1. And this is also for all type of projects. The blue items in the bar is Stream B projects, which are the more far-fetched ones. So even in that case, the percentage of Stream B projects not performing TRL1 or 2 activities is quite high. The reason being that they probably focus on TRL3 and TRL4 and not high-risk research. This is about the ones who do not perform TRL1 and TRL2 activities. If on the contrary, we go to the rest of columns, that is from 5% of budget share to 25% of budget share, as you can see, dark blue color dominates. This meaning that Stream B projects are the ones who lead in high-risk research activities, with roughly 60% of those projects effectively doing this type of activities. As for topics, the main trends in high-risk research, we just selected the top 3. I have to say that the list was quite diverse, let's put it this way. But the top 3 were AI native for everything, radio for core, for all parts, all network segments, also for on the convergence of communication, sensing, and computing. And third place was for semantic and goal-oriented communications. And that's all for this slide.
Thank you, Charles. And this was the last question that we would like to share with you. Over to you, Uwe. And I think we can get to questions if you think so.
Thank you, Ada, Keith, and Carlos, for presenting to us. I just checked on the chat and there are no questions put there, so we can just then now open the floor for any question from the participants. Are there any questions from anyone? I just see now one question coming in. You could see it yourself in the chat, but I can also read it out. So compliment from Angel Martin from Vicom. He asked, have you checked if there is a correlation between the TRL, question 10, and the high number of KPIs on previous questions, 1 to 9? If that's the case, I would ask for more RIA call for proposals, meaning lower TRL. Okay. Carlos, maybe, as you just presented on that.
The direct answer to the question is no, we did not check. Still, it's not only the TRL1 and TRL2, it's not only the type of activities that are carried out in RIAs, right? So there are RIAs focusing on 3, 4, 5, and they do have a prominent role. So I agree with, lower TRLs is important, but this would go under the umbrella of StreamB projects, indeed, but one particular subsection of StreamB projects, which is about long-term one, far-fetched, which are part of the research programs, of the past research programs, and the ones that are now in preparation. But that's an interesting point, to see the correlation between the two. Thank you.
Yeah, that's indeed something maybe we should again discuss internally to see if that's some correlation that we can identify. But I think at a glance, doing it quickly, I think it's a bit difficult. But good point, yeah. Okay, then next question from Pavlos. 16 SNS JU projects conducted trials pilots within 2025. Highest number of trials, 111 per project. I also noticed that, and I must admit, it's really a high number.
Yes.
Question is it true, and does it include open call project or not?
Yes, so obviously it's include open project. And what I could say, because sometimes it's not very obvious, is that some project, and this one particularly, provide a same pilot in several locations, and so it's why it's a very high number. There is also some pilots which are addressing a topic, but replicated with a side topic, meaning so it's just a little modification of the use case, and they make a pilot and they declare a new pilot. So obviously, it should be interesting, yes, to extract from this 111 so the real number of use cases that have been trial and pilot, in order to have a good view of so the size of the numbers, the real number of the pilot developed by this project.
Correct. Thank you, Pierre. Yes, I think it is important to avoid duplicates, because in this case, I'm afraid that of course we have open calls, but we have duplicates, as you mentioned, in the same use case, the same pilot in the different test beds. So maybe this should be also clear to the projects to report next time. Just one use case, one test, even if they change, let's say, the configuration a bit and run it in the different test beds in the project. So maybe it's something to bear in mind for the next time.
Yeah. We need to compare what is comparable. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, then thank you. Next question I see from Chiara. We have an impact indicator at SNS JU program level on percentage increase of energy efficiency of cellular communication. And this is 50% by 2027. How do we calculate this against which baseline, as this goes beyond the number of projects or percentage budget working on energy efficiency related questions? I think, Ada, that was on your slides, wasn't it?
Yes. Here. Actually, we direct asked to the projects and we asked them about their assumption, but after the project, I mean, in real life implementation, it's not covered in this question. We just asked their experiment with the energy efficiency.
Yeah, so we don't ask for a specific KPI in terms of percentage or
Yeah.
so.
Yes, exactly. But how do you think we would get? I think we would get there, but is it results of generations from generation to generation energy efficiency improvements, or can we tightly link this to our research?
Very frank, I don't have a direct response to that because this energy efficiency is also part of, I think, the standards as well. And I don't know if we need to extend this question more, but Uwe, please.
Yeah, I mean, we can just assume from the answers, when we ask the question, do you work on energy efficiency in the experimentation in the work, then that is, of course, based on previous generation that we want to now expand and go beyond. So we don't know specifically on what they base that. It's more the statement, yes, we work on that in order to improve. But what a baseline is, I think, would make sense if we would ask for a percentage in improvement. Then we would have to ask on what do you base that. So that's something we haven't asked yet. Maybe that's something for us to consider. If that's of interest for the SNS, then that could be something that we could include for the next iteration of the questionnaire.
Pavlos, I think this might be relevant as we come closer to 2027. I don't know if there are any other data that we can collect on this, but at least the contribution on percentage of improvement on energy efficiency could be probably asked so that we can try to derive this for our impact indicator.
Correct, because with 50 projects having energy efficiency in the top 5, let's say, technology enablers, and having this now already discussed at the TMV working group, the KPIs are already there. It might be worth considering for at least for the ones that answer yes to this question, to try at least to include the KPI that they have.
Which I think might be a challenging question for the projects. But
it is, but they have already asked. Yeah. This has been agreed at the KPI level at the TMV as an important, let's say, KPI for the projects under SNS. Mm-hmm. So at least they should highlight the target that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ada, please take that back into our discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Then I see a question from Christina. How would it be possible to move the timing of this super valuable exercise of the questionnaire a bit earlier on the year? For example, January, February 2027, it would be extremely helpful. Okay, I mean, I could answer that directly. When we want to know the outcome of the result of the previous year, of course, then we can only ask once the year has passed. And that's what we are also doing. We immediately ask when a year is over for the input. And we set a deadline, typically not very long in the future. But then, at least for this year, it took quite a while until all the project had responded, and we had to give quite a few extensions because it didn't really make sense for us to start with any evaluation when some projects hadn't responded yet. So therefore, I'm not sure it's really feasible. It all depends on how quickly the project responds. And I mean, we already asked the SNS office and the project officers for support on that. So I think we already exploited many of the means that we have at our hands in order to speed that up. And we can, of course, try again next year. But yeah, I cannot really see how we could proceed with that much faster.
Okay, thank you very much. Just keep it as a, in the back of our mind as a potential help for us, because it would be, it is very, very useful source of information for the annual activity report. And if everybody knows that this questionnaire is coming and that we are really looking forward to this input, it will be nice to try and move it a little bit earlier. I think if people understand the importance that it has for SNS JU and for a series of things that are really starting with the announcement of these valuable results, it will be very, very helpful to move it a little bit earlier to the extent possible. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Let's maybe discuss again when we come towards the end of the year, so that we can jointly again agree between the support action and the SNS office on what we could do in order to further speed up the preparation of the
Thank
outcome.
you. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I see another question came in from Angel again. It is important to underline the average numbers. As far as I know, call 4 and 5 would mean a lower number of projects and the rate of new projects over the projects ended under 1. It would be difficult to keep the global numbers trend through a smaller project population. Is that way? I think, yes, absolutely correct. When there are fewer projects starting, then of course the numbers depend on the number of projects. On the other hand, I don't know, the further you proceed into a program, the more mature things get. So you could, for instance, have more trials with a higher TRL. Then I don't know what it means for standards contribution. I mean, you might not have not so many at very start, but then maybe also not so many anymore at the end. I don't know, because then things should mature in the standards. But definitely, the number of projects active at any point in time, that will also determine how many numbers we get in our annual analysis.
Well, may I say something on that as well?
Sure.
Because of course, the numbers are always important, and we report numbers in between also the other reporting material that we have. But it's not only the quantity, it is the quality of the contributions that we're always focusing. And this is something that we have already mentioned to the community so many times, that for us it is important to have impactful contributions to standards, and not only a high number with short contributions that do not find their way to the standards in the end. For example, just mentioning standardization as an example. And this is why we have in the community now we're discussing ways to increase impact, not to increase the number, but to increase impact. The same applies for the key achievements, for all the submissions, for everything that we discuss currently at the SNS JU. So it is important to showcase, this is of course mentioned by Christina in the introduction, it is important to report activities, but also to report significant achievements and impactful contributions. So this is how we think as we move towards the last phases of the SNS. Of course, we have high numbers. We have already exceeded the baselines and the targets that we have as a program, but now it is time to show the real impact, show tangible results that can make a difference. And this is how we need to think in SNS JU from now on, of course.
Thank you, Pablo. That's indeed a very important aspect, indeed. All right, I don't see you now. Okay, Carlos, you could directly speak up, I think.
And I would just, to say that I agree with your point. I think there's a trade-off between the maturity of the projects and their number, and the impact might be dependent on the type of activities, IPR, standards, or OSS on the one hand, or publications on the other. But yes, another trade-offs there, I can see.
Did you raise the hand as well?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Excellent webinar. Congratulations again. And to all projects. Just to highlight on top of this very good webinar that during EU CNC, we will have also, of course, a lot of, and 6G Summit in Malaga soon, we will have also a lot of sessions and a lot of discussion presentation on all let's say contribution project, including among many others, for instance, trials and pilot. And there will be session, workshop. We target to release, several of you are included directly in the work, thanks, the brochure number 2 for SNS. So much more to come also with details, but this is extremely good overview. Thanks again. Yeah.
Thank you, Didier. Okay, I think we are now at the end of the Q&A slot. So let me just say a few things about the way forward. As I mentioned earlier, we plan to organize a webinar with the plans from the call for 5 projects later in the year. So that is something that we will start as soon as call 4 and 5 are live and have started. And then we already continue now on collecting information on 2026 achievements, because we are now right in the middle of SNS JU, and call 1 projects are ending in the course of the year. So in order not to miss on their outcomes in the current year, we need to ask them timely as soon as they finish. So that's something that we have already started for this year, and this will be ongoing. And we will do again then a big collection of input at the end of the year and present again in another webinar, or potentially this will then be organized by the follow-up CSA. But we will definitely start with the preparation for that still in SNS Co-op to report about 2026 KPI progress and achievements. So that's very briefly on how we will move on. So that's an activity that will be continued. Okay, with that, I think just remains to thank the dear audience for your interest and for the questions, and also again our presenters for presenting today. As I mentioned, we'll create a video of that webinar that we will put on the YouTube channel, so you will have the chance again to look into the video and also into the presentation that we presented today. Thanks very much. See you at another webinar. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.